Earlier this year, I had the pleasure attending the signing of the book Bearing It, which told the powerful stories of 12 women that brought tears to my eyes. Today, I'd like to show you one of these women reading an excerpt from her story. Please take a listen.
In the beginning of COVID, was diagnosed with breast cancer and had to go through the whole COVID experience of cancer alone. And then another poster child, we've got a lot of poster children here, my dear friend Christine Ruddle, had a very difficult time in her marriage and with 2 children who ended up in prison, drugs, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of abuse. These are only 6 of the 12 stories in this book, y'all. And you can see why my ACL injury really didn't matter at that moment at all. And I really felt bad and guilty about myself for feeling sorry for myself. So during the next 22 months, I found their stories, I edited their stories. My friend Janice and I worked on putting this book together with Laureate Life Press. So without any further ado, we're going to start out with Tracey. They're each going to be reading just a little bit of their stories today.
Good afternoon, and please forgive me for my attire. I lost a bet with my husband. If my team didn't go to the Super Bowl, I had to wear his team shirt and vice versa. And so my team, the Cowboys, is not in the Super Bowl. So I'm trying to cover the San Francisco 49ers up, but we keep on moving. Amen, sister. Amen. I'm in chapter 1. My name is Tracey McKenzie. I will start on page 5. Whatever you do, don't try to move. You've been in a terrible car accident. The sturdy yet calming voice jolted me out of the empty darkness. Blurred white, yellow, and gray colors surrounded me and made the pounding in my head seem more extreme. The brisk fall wind smacked my face. My mind was frantically spinning, trying to remember what happened. Then I slowly sank back into a dark, empty void. When I finally came to, I was temporarily blinded by the fluorescent flashing lights of one of the first responders' vehicles. The intense stench of burning flesh and the blood-curdling shrieks of terror surrounded so loudly in my head that I couldn't think straight. Where am I? What is happening? At that moment, I heard a voice in the distance cry out, "Oh my God, look at her." What do they mean, look at her? Look at who? What in the world was happening? Initially, all I could make out were blurred lights and gray silhouettes moving in all directions. As my right eye came into focus, I realized that the car that I was a passenger in was intertwined with another vehicle, and I was a mutilated mess. What was wrong with my left eye? Why can't I see anything out? Where's my date? Chris, what happened to him? Why can't I move? Still strapped into the passenger seat, covered in my own blood, I wanted so badly to see what was happening, or at least to stop resisting the desire to rest my eyes in the darkness that seemed to be calling me. As a senior class president of Lloyd V. Berkner High School in Richardson, Texas, I was known as a reliable leader, an honor student, a nationally ranked athlete. I never thought that anything catastrophic would ever happen to me. For the previous 17 years, I'd had what seemed like the golden luck, golden touch. I seemed to excel at most things, all with a good attitude and a cheerful disposition. Never in a million years would I have believed that I would not be healthy and agile. I naively assumed that I was indestructible and would stay youthful and energetic forever. I felt this way until 11:36 p.m. on Friday, October 26, 1989, the fall evening that changed my life forever. Page 13. As a vast team of surgeons worked tirelessly for 17 hours to save my life, my list of injuries were long and complex. I suffered from a compound fractured skull, several broken ribs, a severely lacerated liver, pelvic bruises, and burns to my body. The surgeons had used hundreds of stitches to put my mangled face and body back together. In addition to these procedures, most of the left side of my face was missing. It had been burned off. The doctors grafted skin from the back of my thighs to replace the skin on my face. Finally, my big backside was useful. The initial days in being in the hospital ICU were a matter of survival. The left side of my body was immobile, and I was unable to move the muscles in my face, my leg, or even lift my arm. My fractured cranium and the left side of my face was severely swollen by the trauma from the battery's impact and detonation. Innumerable stitches held my face together. My nearly severed optic nerve and left eyeball were wrapped up completely by gauze and bandages. During my second night in ICU, after regaining consciousness, I intentionally strained to look around my hospital room. I needed to see what was happening. The room was dark, and the only dim light seemed to be in the far corner near the door. My parents were both sleeping in the hard back chairs near the window on the right side of the room. There were masses of flowers and balloons with attached cards that covered up the countertops and the mobile hospital tray. The door of my room was closed, but the left side of the room looked strong. What is that? Is that a sheet over the mirror? Why did they cover up the mirror? Why do I look like that? Oh, my stars in heaven, what is wrong with me? After 10 prolonged days and nights that seemed to run together, it was finally revealed to me why the mirror was covered. The swelling of my skull and face caused my face to look extremely unbalanced and disfigured. The team of doctors did not want my initial response to my physical appearance to derail my emotional state and the initial days of my physical phase. As the days passed, my parents began to take shifts, staying with me. The steady stream of visitors and friends who once came in droves to see me started to disappear completely. My fellow cheerleaders and high school friends stopped coming by as often. Soon my insecurities grew louder as my connection to others began to unravel. Would I ever look the same? Will I be ugly and disfigured forever? Will I be able to walk without a limp, move quickly, or even laugh without pain? Will anyone ever want to spend time with me again? Loneliness, sadness, and anger began to fill my mind. One afternoon, my day nurse, Miss G, came in and gave me medication. She politely asked me how I was doing. Although my speech was not clear, my sobs and anguished sounds of misery were apparent, as apparent as the physical scars on my body. Why was this happening to me? My perfect life was over. I wasn't the one drinking and driving that night. I was just a passenger, minding my own business and living my best teenage life. Why me? My wailing was loud, but my physical and emotional pain was louder. My sobs shook my body and the intensified pain. I was angry. I was depressed. I couldn't speak phrases yet, so talking to anyone was not an option. And I'd always been a talker. I was the life of the party. But yet here I was now. I felt useless, lonely, and hopeless. I felt as though the battery that exploded in my face had blown up my entire world to smithereens. Here I am all bandaged up, and where's that drunk driver? He's probably out happily living his life and going about his daily duties. Meanwhile, my life was turned upside down. Nurse G instinctively knew how to assist me without asking any other questions. She came over to me and just held me as my now 95-pound body collapsed in her arms from hopelessness, exhaustion, and depression. She let me cry until I could not cry any longer. Then she took my bandaged face in her hands and said, "You are allowed to scream. You are allowed to cry, but you are not allowed to give up. God saved you for a reason. Be the reason for someone else by living your best life." As she said those words, I felt a flutter in my heart. Her simple act of compassion did so much to bolster my self-control and self-esteem at that moment. I knew what she said was right. And just like the angel lady earlier had told me, for some reason I had been sick. I could not give up. I needed to keep living. Thank you.